Picture yourself about to deliver a song. The focus and attention is purely on you. The audience is composed of friends and family, known people and strangers. As the swing of the groove kicks off and the first line is about to hit, what do you feel? Is it a rush of great confidence and excitement, or perhaps instant pressure and fear? Fear of disappointment and harsh criticism. And out of these two ways of feeling, in which state would you most preferably find yourself in? Well, if you're like most humans, I think you'd rather hope to find yourself in a state of great confidence and excitement. I mean, why would someone ever want to find themselves positioned in nothing but negative emotion? Well, to this end, let us consider the motive of an artist. If the motive of an artist is not even considered by the artist, then most likely the underlying aim is to show the world something skillful. Thus, this type of person would want to project confidence to build trust with their audience. Similarly, the artist dedicated towards spreading joy and happiness would want to do something in the same lines. But let us now consider the artist whose primary purpose is to be a storyteller. Now, things take an abrupt turn, because for him or her, their emotional state is non-consistent, in the sense that every song requires the performer to take the role of the protagonist, i.e. the main person inside a song. To this extent, if the protagonist is filled with negative emotion, then so should the artist be. Thus, if we go back to the question I asked you earlier, and you now claim to be an artist whose motive is to be a storyteller, then your answer might actually be to prefer a state of fear, as dumb as it may sound. And at this point, you might be raising your silly little middle finger and saying, stop overthinking and just write and perform songs. You got it? Well, I want to let you know that I'm very aware that this whole idea might be very quirky, but hear me out. By entering this line of thought, we venture into a world where the main objective is to bridge the gap between a musical performance and a painting, where the former becomes a live experience of the latter. In this way, we remove pressure from being flawless and concentrate our energy entirely on communicating the message of the painting to the best of our ability. So a song that I've been completely drawn to as of late is a song called Monday by Matt Corby. In an official video, Matt does a live rendition of the song where he essentially builds a stack of harmonies by using a loop pedal and delivers something ethereal and soulful. Because I was so captivated by it, I immediately looked up the lyrics and began breaking it down line by line. Once I had my rendition of the song complete, my aim was to construct a story of the protagonist and to capture its essence in a live performance format.
Oh, I just found out that we can use this room. Fuck yeah, man. Oh, we can actually get sunlight through this fucking windows. Thank God for that. What is it about? If I want to tell a story on stage, then I can't do that if I don't know what it is I want to communicate. So let's break it down. Let's really break it down top to toe. Monday is representing the start of a new week. You get a new week and an opportunity to refresh and become a better version of yourself than what you were last week. I think I like that concept, but I think it goes even deeper than that. The lyric goes, all day blazed, I wonder if through grace I'll find the new high that I wanted. Could it be you? You go through life and you feel there's a need to experience the high. You find this thing that grips onto you like some fucking force that you can't explain, that just wants to be free. You want to be a free soul. And then he says, no Bible, no more. I don't know faith like I did before. You don't trust in faith anymore because you find that faith has not gotten you anywhere. Faith has just placed you in a worse position. Oh, and I stumbled too and got it wrong. When it's said and gone, when it's said and gone, I'd wait with you, fading out till silence. You seek the high, you seek to reach a place of freedom through religious beliefs that fail you, and then you go for the human connection, which also fails you. Over graves will all get laid. From the baby song will teach us what the hell our souls were born to do. The child that has not experienced the complexity of life, their mind is pure. They don't have shit in their brains. That's bullshit, because these kids are on TikTok every day nowadays. The purity of a child is something to really look at and to get inspired by, especially when you get older. That's why we admire kids so much, because we see the true happiness in their eyes. And they will teach us what our souls were born to do. And then you will realize that you were never lost, you only chose to never go home.
Through a detailed analysis of the song, we're now ready to create the protagonist. But how deep do we go? If you really think about it, there's no boundary. You could go as far as to give them a name, a face, a clothing style, a place of origin, etc. But let us recall our objective. We want to bridge the gap between a musical performance and a painting. And inside that painting, there might be certain aspects or features of the main character that are not really of relevance. In addition, to avoid getting overly conscious about details we are unsure about, it's probably good to keep it as simple as possible. With that being said, let us stick to revealing 3 things about our protagonist: the evolution of the emotional state of the character, their story, and their innermost desires. In this way, we can project both their character arc and overall ambition as the song evolves. Before the first verse even hits, we hear a choir of oaths building, giving the impression of something deeply religious and spiritual. We can even go as far as to paint a picture of someone on their knees, begging and seeking for a divine connection. In this way, the transition to the first verse seems rather natural. It is here that we come in contact with a man who is a skeptic and in a state of great confusion. A man who questions whether his devotion will actually lead him to the high. What follows is the strike of a simple beat and a leading O vocal. Throughout this specific part, we essentially find out about the man's inner desire, and we venture in to his dream reality, one composed of freedom. Thus, on display is not something he actually feels, but something he wishes to feel. In the beginning of the second verse, the man grows increasingly frustrated, and he articulates a feeling of betrayal, betrayed by his religious and spiritual beliefs. Though seemingly frustrated, he quickly points out personal failures, proving that he's not delusional, but aware of his own misdoings. Torn by the stormy religion that has led him astray, he's willing to change his philosophy and line of thinking. The man begins believing that he'll find the high through human connection, only to soon find that this leads him nowhere close to it. At this point, the man feels lost, finding that both philosophies have gotten him absolutely nowhere. It is only until he comes in terms with inevitable death and gets inspired by the purity of a child that he reclaims a hopeful state. In the end, his battle is resolved by realizing his soul's duty and realizing that his only mistake was never returning home. So what are we really seeing? I mean, it all seems pretty far-fetched. When painting a picture of the story, it seems to be the case that in front of us is a man deeply inside an internal conflict. As an audience, we are in direct contact with this internal conflict. It is not that we're seeing the protagonist's physical presence in the real world, but really that we are trapped inside his very mind. Okay, so we have the story written on paper, and we have pinned down the character's development as the song evolves. Our job is to now give life to the story, to emphasize emotions in the right parts, and to, overall, give a hauntingly beautiful representation of the man's internal conflict. How do we do this? Do we confidently move into the field of theatrics, or just rely on body movements and singing? I want to find my answer somewhere in between the two. Because by giving into theatrics completely, we might run into the risk of removing the emotional power. But at the same time, if we ignore it, we run the risk of not being able to communicate the story. At the moment, I have some complete parts, but most are pretty loose. Like I mentioned earlier, I want the introduction to feature a man on his knees, resembling spiritualism and devotion. And the chorus, which is really just a sharp falsetto, I want to swing freely with my arms and body, and in this way, display his dream reality. Other than that, I know that adjusting my tone of voice will be vital. For instance, if a part of the story features the protagonist in a mode of frustration, then I want the singing to do the same thing. Remember, the painting/story should come alive. Anyways, I'm not going to waste your time. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.